25th regular school board meeting. Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Grant,
Present.
Mr. Carpenter,
Present.
Mr. Leeds,
Here.
and Mr. Fulham.
Present.
And Mrs. Hagedorn's absent.
Yes, correct. All right, would everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.3, any additions or deletions I see here to the agenda for the ELA textbook adoption for grades 7 through 12?
Yes, we did add that to the end of the agenda. It was just, as we were going through and reviewing it today, we realized it had been left off.
Okay. All right. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Any questions? Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Leeds. Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on to section 2, discussion and comments from the board, starting with legislative. Mr. Leeds?
The legislative is a little bit slim tonight. They're not in session at this time, but however, in the last 2 weeks, or the last week and a half, I guess, Mr. Buskirk and I met with Mr. Hall, state representative. For all of you that here tonight that do not know this, we stand to lose over $900,000 a year from our monies due to the Rockies pipeline challenging the taxation that they're having on their pipeline. So we met with Representative Hall, and there is a tax commission in the state that will rule on this. But they want to reduce their taxes by, I believe, 45%, and it's a big hit across the state. It's $16 million a year that they want to reduce their taxes, and it's coming from the schools. So we are fighting this tooth and nail. And this afternoon, I had a phone call from Mr. Hall, and he said that he has met with some of his people up there in Columbus, or talked to them on the phone, even though they're not in session. And he has a group of people that are going to go with him and back him on trying to get these taxes back. My guess is that if they want 45% reduction in taxes, if they get 20, they'll be happy. With 20 will still hurt us over $400,000 a year in Monroe alone. So that is the biggest thing we're after right now, and we are fighting this tooth and nail, and we will do everything we can to get those taxes back, and we'll keep you all posted.
And the importance of what he's talking about for people that are in attendance, we're already a capped district, so we're already getting short close to $7 million a year from the state. So taking another, call it $1 million from the state does not help the budget in any way, shape, or form. So we may be reaching out to the public for some support to reach out to your local congressman.
Right, that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Guido is not here for Butler Tech, but he did send me some information. Really, the only update is the Butler Tech graduation. That is May 16th at 7 p.m. at the Conrad Center. If anyone plans on attending, just to let him know. And then he also wanted to thank AJ and Debbie for attending the tour of Butler Tech for all their facilities. So that's all from Butler Tech. And moving on to 2.3, finance. Anything from finance?
No, we haven't met. We met, well, I shouldn't say we haven't met. We have been talking about it. It's still this tax thing we've been talking about.
Yes.
So
Okay.
nothing other than that.
Okay, very good. 2.4, student achievement.
Yep, like to recognize our student achievements at each school. Congratulations to our primary school Hornets of the Month, Jesse Stom, Kinsley Disher, Harley Wheeler, Nora Abner, Bruno Acospio, Andrew Prosai, Joe McIntosh, Tegan Krekus, Madeline Slott, Sawyer Babel, Jesse Paz, Delaney Furtro, Bailey Brouch, Beckett Hughes Thurman, Autumn Petticord, Guntas Badesha, August Allers, Spencer Roundtree, Summerlin Scott, Paisley Touchfarber, Yara Farah, and Bryson Feltner. At our elementary school, every year the sixth grade students participate in the DARE program, which is run by our school resource officers. At the end of the program, they may enter an essay contest to answer the questions, what have you learned in DARE, and how will you apply it in a healthy living? This year's winners, who won a brand new iPad from the Monroe Police Department, were Riley Terry, Noelle Dixon, Haley Lovely, Ever Saxton, Liam Martin, Sahil Agarwal, Lillian Stansberry, and Kushdeep Kaur. At our junior high school, congratulations to our Students of the Month, 7th grader Clayton Herring. He's a model student. He always has a smile, a positive attitude, and a willingness to help in whatever way he can. He gets along with everyone, works hard on his class in the classroom, and offers encouragement to all those around him, including his teachers. Clayton should be the Student of the Month because he exemplifies kindness, often offering to help others, but not in a way that draws attention to himself, which is exactly what our school and our world needs. That's from Mrs. Birchfield, 7th grade social studies teacher. And our 8th grader, Jay Morris, has a positive attitude and a great work ethic. He is a hard worker while in class and is also involved in other activities throughout the school like student council and NJHS. Jay is willing to help classmates and teachers alike, and his relentless effort and drive to stay positive and productive is a great example for others. That's from Mrs. Sharkley, 8th grade science teacher. And finally, at the high school, the results from the fall government OST came back, and we did not see a drop in our scores from taking government from a year-long course to a semester course. OST went well, and the students did a great job getting to school on time and being where they needed to be. The plan is to keep things the same for next year. That's it.
All right, good. Thank you. 2.5, anything from MEA?
Hi there, I'm Heather DeBoard. I just wanted to remind the board as well as the administration team of our MEA dinner. It is on Friday, May 6th at Major's Farm across the street. Doors open at 5:30 and we will have dinner catered by Luigi's starting at 6. And we have numerous prizes this year, which include $1,000 in gift cards, Apple Watch, a day spa, Keys Island tickets, and more. And all the proceeds will benefit the MEA Scholarship Fund. So we hope to see you all there.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to section 3, recognition.
We're going to start. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Silverman, who has some winter athletes he would like to recognize.
Guys, come over and stand right in front of the screen there.
You guys aren't going to the principal's office. You guys can smile.
Well, again, I want to thank the board for the opportunity to recognize our varsity wrestling team. So this is a handful of the members of our varsity wrestling team who had quite a year. This is my 6th year here at Monroe, and in each of those years, our wrestling team just keeps taking another step, another step, another step. And this year, they checked a lot of boxes for the goals that they had set for themselves. One of which was to win a league championship. So this year in the kind of the reconfigured SWBL, we were in the East Division, and that took place in February at Carlisle High School, and they had an awesome performance. So we finished with 196 points overall. Second place, trailing way behind Franklin at 144. I mean, just an awesome showing that they had. We had 10 placers at the league meet. And I'll go ahead, I'll read off our list of our guys. Guys, when I read your name, go ahead and give a wave here. Nathan Mosher, and Nathan's finished first in his weight class. Landon Moss, Right, Tucker Campbell is not here, and Cooper Campbell's not here. Tucker was first in his weight class. Cooper was third. Carson Leach was fourth in his weight class. Jackson Redding and Jacob Muncie. Jacob was fifth in his weight class. Alex Pitch was first in the league champion, first in his weight class. Ethan Volk was third. John Rasnick was third. Gabe Maxwell was third. And Chris Reber was also first, and Chris isn't with us tonight either. But then on top of all that, take a group of guys that then qualify on, go into the sectional tournament, which was a lot of fun. Got to go out and watch them at Clinton Massey High School, and to have 7 guys then qualify on from the sectionals to the districts. And our district qualifiers, we had Nathan Mosier, Tucker and Cooper Campbell. Alex qualified again. Ethan Volk, Gabe Maxwell, and Chris Reber also qualified. So just to get to that point, to get to Wilmington High School and that weekend is an incredible accomplishment to go through the gauntlet that is at our sectional tournament out at Clinton Massey. And then on top of all that, I want to recognize Alex for, first of all, Nathan placed 6th there at the district, but then Alex qualified to the OHSA state championship for the 2nd year in a row. And that is just an unbelievable accomplishment for him. Alex, we're incredibly proud of you for what you did. Mr. Prohaska and I were able to go up to Columbus on a cold and snowy Friday night, made our way up there and got to watch Alex compete, and it was awesome. I mean, just represented our school and community like a rock star. And so in the 150-pound weight class, Alex state qualifier for the OHSA tournament. But overall, with our wrestling program and these guys, I want to point out something. We talk a lot about what they did on the mat. As a team, our varsity wrestling program had a 3.31 GPA. So they're getting it done in the classroom as well. So, guys, I also want to real quick recognize and note, I should say, our head coach, Sean Lambert, couldn't be here tonight. I got a call from him about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. He is not feeling well, so he wanted me to pass along, his congratulations to the guys as well. But I also do want to thank Wayne Heifeld, one of our coaches in our program, is with us here tonight, and his wife's Christy with us, and I recognize Christy because normally she's the one driving the bus. And she's there for all the long hours watching them too, and we appreciate all that the both of them do and give to the program as well. So thank you both for coming to support the guys. So guys, congratulations. It's been a privilege for us to be able to watch you guys through this past season, some of you for multiple seasons, and finally to have you reach that mark that I know every year we've talked about, getting that league championship trophy and being able to add 2022 to the banner in the gym is going to be a sweet thing for us. So congratulations on a great year. We're really proud of you. So guys, come up in front here. We're going to get a picture with the board.
You guys ready?
Congratulations, guys. All right, the next part of our recognition is we have a very special recognition for one of our board members tonight. We are recognizing Tom Leeds on behalf of the Ohio School Boards Association and the Southwest Regional Executive Committee. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to you for your service to public education. serving your community through Monroe Local Schools Board of Education for the past 15 years. Shows tremendous dedication. Your dedication is part of the formula that makes Southwest the best. So again, thank you, and that is a letter from Mark Ewing, who is the OSBA Southwest Regional Manager. And so on behalf of OSBA and all of the community of Monroe, Mr. Leeds, we'd like to thank you for your service. 15 years is a long time. You've been through a lot with this district, and because of people like you that are dedicated to this district, it's going to continue to make Monroe a great place. So we thank you for your commitment.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Everybody ready? Good.
All right, moving on to section 4, and before we get to section 4, if anyone was here for the recognition, if you would like to read, you can. If not, you're more than welcome to stay. Just giving you a free pass. Seeing that there's no community comments from the public, we will move on to section 5, treasurer's business. Mrs. Cahall, item 5.1.
Okay, I'm asking the board to approve the minutes from the meeting on March 14th and the meeting on March 28th.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Any questions? Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Grant.
Aye, motion carried. Item 5.2.
The treasurer's financial report for March 31st, 2022.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. All right.
All right. So I do provide a financial report attached to in the agenda. And one thing I did want to point out, that one of the things I do is compare this year's revenue with last year's revenue. And it shows tax receipts that we're getting a lot more tax receipts this year. But last year we received them quite a bit later in April because of all that revaluing property. And so they sort of held up our payment. And so kind of just ignore what I say in the report, because we received $13.6 million in property tax revenue last year, and we received pretty much the same amount this year.
Hey, can we pull up the treasurer's report, please?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
5.2.
5.2 for 2. Oh, sorry. And then the treasurer's report. Treasurer's report there. I'm doing this for March 31st, but, okay, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you go down a little bit, okay, there, oh, stop it. So it shows that we have like the change, we got 4 million more this year in property tax receipts, and it's just because of the timing this year, and really we got pretty much the same local property taxes, and that's actually without, with Rocky not paying their taxes, actually. So if they'd have paid their taxes, we would have gotten more in property taxes over last year. But so it's pretty much the same. It just looked distorted, so I wanted to point that out. But overall, our general fund balance is $33.3 million, and overall we have $41.6 million in the bank. And I think we're going to end the year with our revenue exceeding our expenses this year, and that's what we want to see. Unless I'm surprised in the next few months, but it's looking good, because even though Rocky didn't pay theirs, you know, we've gotten about 700 to 800,000 more in state foundation revenue. That's been good, and this revaluing, properties, we've gotten more in property taxes are, so that's good. But we are heading to some challenges, and Tom mentioned that about the Rocky Express not, arguing their values, and, we sure hope the tax commissioner sides with the local governments, and so it's not just schools, but it's a lot of them, and we don't wanna see that money go away. And even if they do reduce it a little bit, but, we wanna, keep that. And so we can only count the 2 years of getting off the cap. We're owed 14 million a year, and, this year we're getting 8, and next year we're getting, 9.7 next year. But that's still far away from 14 million. So, when we're putting together our projections, we can't, project any more than what we think, we've been told we will receive next year. And so that's flat. And so we wanna see our revenue grow. We don't wanna see it flat, because our needs are changing, and we're needing to, find staff, hire staff to help these kids, and that takes money. And so, and right now, we have, 2 grants, ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, and one was 800,000 and one is 1.8 million. And so we're paying for some staff out of those, and we know we'll need most of those staff because of our kids. And so if the foundation, if we would get uncapped, that would help solve a lot of problems. And our community's growing, and maybe we'll see more tax receipts, so, that's what we're hoping. So it's just gonna be challenging, I think.
One other thing to piggyback on what you said about Rocky Express, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but another reason why it was a shock is because everyone's forecast was already out for the entire fiscal year. And then just, 3 weeks ago, we get a curveball thrown to us that out of our forecast, we're gonna lose $900,000.
Yes.
Was it like 3-4 weeks ago?
Yes, that's correct, just in the 2/3 of the year through.
Yeah.
And, not only that, but we're supposed to collect so much in taxes. And mills are set back in August and September, and that's based on the value of property. And when that value blows up, then we're not gonna get what the voters want us to get,
Correct.
with our taxes, like
Yep.
our levies.
Yep. All right.
So that's one of the things we wanna correct, is that they can't do it in the middle of the year anymore, so.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right,
Okay.
Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye, motion carried. Item 5.3,
And once again, I'm asking the board to approve the bond fund report.
may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. A little quicker there, Tim.
Yeah.
I will report, we did receive some receipts, tax receipts, in March, and the current balance is $3.7 million, and all the money is where it should be.
All right, thank you for answering that question.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye, motion carried. And item 5.4,
I'm asking the board to approve the Emergency Connectivity Grant Award in the amount of $166,800. And this money will help reimburse us for the purchase of laptops and Chromebooks that we've purchased, so.
very good. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Any questions? Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye, motion carried. Item 5.5,
I'm asking the board to approve a 3-year contract with REA and Associates for agreed upon procedures of our Medicaid reimbursed expenses, and this is required by law, and they gave us a rate that was very competitive.
okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Any questions? Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 5.6.
Okay, so we found a couple of things we missed in our school fees when we had them approved in March. So I'm asking you to rescind the resolution, and then the next one we'll ask you to approve them.
Okay.
So rescind the resolution that was passed March 28th, approving school fees.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Any questions? Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. And item 5.7.
Next, I'm asking you to approve school fees for school year 22 to 23.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds. Any questions? Just out of curiosity, was there a significant increase from last year's?
No.
Okay, no increase? Okay. Okay. All right. Mrs. Cale, please call the roll.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. And, hold on, I had to flip pages. All right, I think that is it for the treasurer's report.
That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Cale.
Thank you.
All right. Section 6, Superintendent's Update.
All right, thanks, Mr. Grant. I don't have a whole lot today, but I do want to share. Welcome everybody back from spring break. Somebody asked what kind of a day it was. I said it was quiet. I think most of the kids were still asleep today, as well as half the staff. So it was hard to get moving and a nice quiet day, but I looked and we only have 22 days of school left with kids. So we will blink and it will be here. And graduation is less than a month away. So ready or not, here it's coming. So along with spring break, I know in the community there were a number of questions about being in school on Good Friday last year. I do just want to share that when we pass the approve the calendars, next year's is already approved, and Good Friday is off in the future. So just wanted to reiterate that. I had a number of questions about that one. I want to also talk a little bit about state testing. It is all completed. I know that Mr. Prohaska shared that the new testing schedule for the high school went really well. Junior high and high school both tested first thing in the morning. I think in the past they kind of had it spread throughout the day, and this was a lot more uniform for the kids. They knew the routine coming in first thing in the morning. It went really well. The other good thing about the state testing is that this year that they are saying that we should get our results back in May, which usually it's halfway through
Next school year.
the first semester of the following school year. So those scores mean very little because those kids have moved on to a different grade level and sometimes a different building. So it'll be really nice to have those scores before the end of the school is out. So I think I shared before that, as we look at our scores, the last 2 years have been have been thrown off for not just Monroe, but everybody. So this will be a really good kind of measuring stick starting point for us to see where we are and start really digging into areas that we need to address. So I look forward to those results coming in May. So. And the last thing I wanted to share this Friday, I know for anyone in high school, they're very excited. It is prom. They have it over at Lake Lindsay there in, is that Hamilton or Fairfield or Westchester?
Hamilton.
I don't know.
Hamilton.
Over off Route 4 there, so
Hamilton.
kind of towards, yeah. So anyway, very nice venue. I know the high school is buzzing about it this year. This week, they've got Spirit Week, different themed things going on. What I do want to share about this, and I'm not trying to put a damper on anything, but if you look at some of the neighboring districts, they've had some really awful things happen with some students over the last couple weeks. So I just want to say to kids and parents, please have that conversation with your kids about being careful, making smart decisions. I know the high school administration is going to talk to the kids. The teachers do a really good job of talking to the kids, but I also remember what it was like to be a high school kid where you thought you were indestructible. So we cannot reiterate enough, use good judgment, be careful, be safe. So That is all I have for my update.
Thank you. All right, moving on to section 7, the superintendent's personnel business, item 7.1.
All right, we have a number of new staff. We've had quite a few openings. The principals and directors have been working really hard to get these positions filled, and we have a number of them here tonight. So what we will do is, once the motion is passed, we would love to invite the new staff members that are here. Up front, Mr. Grant has a special pin that he would like to hand out, and then we'd love to have a group picture with all our new staff members. So,
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Um,
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Any questions? All right, Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye, motion carried. Welcome to Hornet Country.
yes, welcome to Hornet Country. Any of the new teachers here, if you want to come on up. I heard that. Thank you again for attending. I do want to share that this is a great place to be, great staff, great administration, great community. Thank you for coming. Feel free to quietly sneak out the back if you'd like. You're welcome to stay, but you do not have to. And again, welcome to Monroe.
All right, moving on to item 7.2.
Next up is to recommend the board approve the following substitutes.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Any questions? Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Grant.
Aye, motion carried. Item 7.3.
It's recommended the board approve the following extracurricular contracts for next school year, 22-23.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds. Any questions? Ms. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye, motion carried. And item 7.4.
It's recommended the board approve the following certified employees for continuing contract.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Any questions?
I do want to comment that this is a very big achievement. They do, administrators take it seriously, so this is quite an honor for those teachers.
Very good. Mrs. Cahall, please call the roll.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye, motion carried. Moving on to section 8, superintendent's other business.
It's recommended that the board approve the following donations.
May I have a
Thank you.
motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds. Any questions?
Thank you for the donation.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. That's
Thanks,
a
everyone.
Extensive
I'm
list.
honestly amazed. Every month, it's like the list just we have a very, very generous community.
We do. All right, Mrs. Cahill, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter?
Aye.
Mr. Leeds?
Aye.
Mr. Oh, yeah. Mr. Fulham?
Aye.
And Mr. Grant?
Aye, motion carried. Item 8.2,
This item is just the first reading of the Neola recommended policy revisions. This is just the first reading, and then the next one they will be up for approval.
Man, it's good reading too.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
need a full report.
It's on your desk. It's done.
Yes.
You're more than welcome to come and sit in the meeting with me and Holly as we sit.
I gotta tell you something, it's unbelievable. Some of the things that they're changing in in this report are things that they added 3 years ago.
Yes, yes, yes.
And they're going back and taking them out. Now,
Well, somebody needs to.
I guess
have
if,
a reason.
if it sits around long enough, it'll be back around, yeah.
Yes.
3 more years, we'll get back on
Good reading though, I'm telling you.
All right, item 8.3,
It's recommended to the approval of the agreement with Sodexo for the 3 custodial FTEs for next school year, 22-23. These are not an additional to what we have this year. They added 3 last year and it's to continue, or this year, and it's to continue those 3 for next year.
all right, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Any questions? And these are being paid through ESSER funds.
Yes.
All right, very good. Ms. Cahill, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter?
Aye.
Mr. Fulham?
Aye.
Mr. Leeds?
Aye.
And Mr. Grant?
Aye, motion carried. And item 8.4,
Recommend the approval of the agreement with Majors for regular ground services and pricing for optional as-needed services for the 22-23 school year.
may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Any questions?
I do just want to share that this is they take care of all of our grounds and maintenance and mowing and mulching and weeds, and then they do all the snow removal as well. And so any of the at-large pricing is something that I know Mr. Catanzaro works very closely with them to make sure that, they're not overcharging or undercharging or whatever. We have a good relationship with them and they work very closely with us.
All right. Mrs. Cahill, please call the roll.
Mr. Leeds?
Aye.
Mr. Fulham?
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter?
Aye.
And Mr. Grant?
Aye, motion carried. And item 8.5,
It is recommended the board approve the MOU for the elementary school special education coverage.
may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds. Any questions?
I just do want to comment, I shared with the board earlier that just with this, in this time, especially for special education teachers, if they are out, it is impossible to find substitutes, and you cannot just place anyone in those rooms. They have to be special education certified to get the minutes for the students on IEPs. So the elementary special ed staff stepped up and they were down 2 staff members due to maternity leaves. So this MOU is to compensate them for a small amount, which is still much less than what we would have paid for a substitute teacher. So.
Thank you. Mrs. Cahill, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter?
Aye.
Mr. Leeds?
Aye.
Mr. Fulham?
Aye.
And Mr. Grant?
Aye, motion carried. Item 8.6,
It's recommended the board approve the 8th grade trip to Washington DC, May 8th through 11th, 2023. It's next year's current 7th graders, next year's 8th grade class.
may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Any questions?
I'm just glad they get to go.
Yes, finally.
Tables was canceled.
Yes.
It's glad to see them
Yes.
starting to do this again.
My daughter will be attending, and Mr. Stanger's already working on me as a chaperone.
Chaperone?
And I said, no, thank you. I said, first of all, you're going to have to get approval from Ellie, so that won't happen, but we'll see. It's awesome.
Mrs. Cahill, please call the roll.
Mr. Fulham?
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter?
Aye.
Mr.
Leeds.
Mr. Leeds?
Aye.
And Mr. Grant?
Aye, motion carried. And then item 8.7.
It's recommended that the board approve the following overnight out-of-state athletic team trips. These are, as you see, they're listed there. These are all summer camps for different teams and organizations and clubs.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Any questions? Mrs. Kale, please call the roll.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 8.8.
It's recommended to approve the two-year extension of the Learning A to Z contract for additional amount of $44,888.64. And this is to be paid through Title I grant funds.
Like grants. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Any questions? Mrs. Kale, please call the roll.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. And item 8.9.
This is to approve the English Language Arts textbook adoption for grades 7-12. It was presented last board meeting, and this is the adoption. Lists the cost there at $125,135.90. And this was the addition that was left off until, so that's why we approved it.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds. Any questions?
I just want to thank everyone who, there was a lot of work putting this together, I know, and the information was really thorough and well presented, so thanks to everybody involved there.
Absolutely. Mrs. Kale, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
and Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 8.10.
8.10 is just the calendar of upcoming events. And if you check it out between athletics and music and everything else going on in May, it's a busy, busy time of year.
All right. Before we move to section 9, any comments from the board? We will start with Mr. Leeds.
Well, I just want to thank Robert and his staff for the smooth year that we've had. It's been gone by in a hurry. It seems like it. We just started, I think, a week ago. But want to also thank everybody for the wonderful Jesse Mayhab dinner we had, and that was a good time. And I want to also let everybody know that the board will be busy. We have to come up with some kind of a place to put these kids, and we're running out of room. So we will be doing some things so we can get some things going here, so we can get some room. So we're going to be busy for the summer, it looks like. Other than that, again, thanks everybody for the job well done. That's it.
Okay. I just have a couple of things real quick. Just we're going in order, and Debbie's there, so she asked me to go over a couple of things while she was gone. Just a couple of brief things. She just wanted to congratulate, since she couldn't be here, she just wanted to congratulate the Monroe wrestling team for the SWBO East Championship, well deserved, and she was glad she was able to attend and watch the team earn this title, and she's very proud of each of the boys. She's also thankful for the opportunity that AJ and her had to be able to tour the Butler Tech buildings and to learn about the programs and opportunities that are available at Butler Tech. And Friday is prom for juniors and seniors, so have fun, be safe, and make good decisions. And hopes everyone attends the after prom at the Web. So that's it from Mrs. Hagedorn. So on to you, Mr. Fulham.
Awesome. I also would like to thank Butler Tech Superintendent John Graft and Assistant Superintendent Marnie Durham for welcoming Debbie and I to tour some of their facilities to gain a better understanding of how their programs are serving several students from our district. I was very impressed with their operation and definitely look forward to the opening of the new Natural Science building being constructed here on campus. And now it's time for my high fives from around the hive. Do it, buddy. High five to Mr. Longier and his staff for putting on an excellent rendition of Annie for their annual spring musical. All of the students who participated did an outstanding job From our onstage talent to our set design and excellent orchestra pit, everyone did fantastic. High five to our outstanding elementary PTO who hosted a father-daughter dance. The neon theme brought out some fun outfits, a great atmosphere for the students and their families, and I'm really looking forward to bringing my daughters in the future. I believe Mr. Carpenter got to attend, and there are photos.
Oh, yeah.
High five to all of the Jesse Mayab Scholar Award recipients who were recognized earlier this month. It was a pleasure getting to attend the event where we acknowledged the top 20 students of each of the 4 high school classes. Thank you to all of the staff and volunteers who hosted this wonderful event for our students and their families. That's it. I left you some time, Mr. Carpenter.
Man, that was
Record.
High five.
AJ gets a high five now.
I got one last month too, so
I know.
better be careful.
All right, Mr.
Get
Carpenter.
used to it, buddy. Mine will be pretty quick. I do want to thank. So I had the pleasure of chaperoning the 4th grade field trip on the rainy day that they went to Fort Ancient. But the staff there did a great job of accommodating for the kids. They didn't get to participate in all the fun outdoor stuff, but they still, I believe they had a good time. But then I saw pictures of the kids who got to go on Friday, and they looked like they had a really good time. So I'm sure there was some animosity between the two, the different groups there. But yeah, it's a great trip. And then something else, but I don't know. I lost it.
Lost it?
Lost it?
All right.
Can we
I
bring
don't
it
know.
back?
That's all right. I'll figure it out later.
I'll be brief. Everyone pretty much touched on base on everything, but I cannot believe that we're here to almost to the end of the school year. So I'm definitely looking forward to Friday night graduation under the lights. That's going to be a great event. So I think it would be very special. So looking forward to that. Also looking forward to, I know the spelling bee is coming back next month, so I'm looking forward to attending that. Looking forward to that. And I know I was not able to for work purposes, but I will try to attend a field trip next year with the primary. So I will. So my work did not allow for it this year. Other than that, it's been a successful school year so far. So thank you to everyone in the building, administrators, Robert and Holly as well. So thank you to everyone involved. So other than that, that is it for me. Before we move on to section 9, we are going to adjourn to executive session. So with that being said, it is recommended that the board adjourn to executive session to consider the employment or compensation of a public employee, revised code 121.22G4, and no action will be taken. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Leeds.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fulham. And Mrs. Cahall?
Mr. Leeds,
Aye.
Mr. Fulham,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
I
and Mr. Grant.
Aye. Motion carried. And meeting is adjourned. And Mrs. Cahall, I'll shoot you a text and let you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Great,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much. Thank you for attending, everybody.